Same sign, add and keep. Different signs, subtract. Keep the sign of the higher number, then you'll be exact. Just in case you wonder why I am torturing you with my voice singing, it's because this will help you moving forward through subtracting integers.
Hello, it's Mr. Dorsey. I am going to talk about subtracting integers today. Okay, so subtracting integers you're familiar with from elementary school, but I'm going to show you a different way of thinking of it, which will help you with more complex integers. For example, if you're given 7 minus 4, that is actually the same thing. You can add the opposite of this number that you're already subtracting. What do I mean by that? So 7 minus 4 is the same thing, I'm going to write it over here in red, as 7 plus a negative 4. You are adding the opposite of 4 instead of subtracting. Okay? So simply put, we've already done this on a number line. Same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. Oh yeah, 7 minus 4 is 3, and I keep the positive sign, right? So we're going to keep the positive sign. And you know that from elementary school that 7 minus 4 is 3, right? Sorry, that's a 3. But when it comes to something a little more complex, let's go ahead and use this. Something a little more complex. Let's do one like 9 minus a negative 3. Uh-oh, 9 minus negative 3. What do I do with that? Well, if you remember, 9 minus a negative 3 is the same thing as 9 plus the opposite of negative 3 is positive 3. Oh, you already know how to do that. 9 plus 3 is 12, right? Same signs add and keep. Here, you didn't know that, right? So this rule, adding the opposite of subtracting a negative or subtracting any number, if you add the opposite of the second number, you will always get the right answer. So let's look at another one. Let's say you have negative 8 minus negative 5. What do I do with that? Well, same thing. So if I take the first part of the problem and I leave it alone, negative 8, and then I add the opposite, plus 5 equals. We know how to do that, right? Same sign add and keep? No. Different sign subtract. 8 minus 5 is 3. Keep the sign of the higher number, which is negative. So it's negative 3. That's what this is. It simplifies something that looks very difficult, right? Let's try this. Negative 6 minus 5. How do I do that? I subtract 5 from a negative 6. I don't know. Again, I'm just going to write it in blue this time. You keep the first part the same. But then you're adding the opposite of that. So I'm adding the opposite of the opposite of 5 is negative 5. So I'm adding a negative 5. Oh, I know how to do that. Same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. So these are the same sign, negative 5 and negative 6. I add them, 5 plus 6 is 11, and I get a negative 11 because we keep the sign. Same sign, add and keep the sign, okay? Let's do one more. Let's do 5. Sorry, my marker is about out of ink. Let's try again. That's a 5. It's kind of a terrible 5, but you get the idea. 5. Let's do 5 minus 12. What? How do I do that? Same thing over here. I'm going to keep it in blue, the first part. 5. Now I'm going to add the opposite of I'm going to add the opposite of this. So I'm going to add a negative 12. Oh, yeah, same sign, add and keep. No, different sign, subtract. 12 minus 5 is 7. Keep the negative sign because that's the higher number, higher value number. Okay? Okay, I want you to try a few now. I'm going to write them down here. Negative 5 minus 5 equals. I'll write them here, and then I'll give you, after I put all 4 of them down, I'll have you answer the question and see how you do. So the second one that we're going to look at is 9 minus negative 3. And I'm going to put the negative in parentheses so I don't lose the negative number. And then let's do negative 7, and let's add, nope, sorry, we're doing subtraction. Negative 7 minus negative 7. I'll erase that so it's clear that that is a 7. Okay? And one more. Let's do 3 minus 14. Okay, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to do those, and then you can compare your answers with what the correct ones are. Okay, now that you've answered the questions, you're looking at this video. You should know what you did wrong already or what you did right. But if you don't, let's take a look at it. Negative 5 minus 5, the subtracting an integer is the same thing as adding the opposite. So let's say negative 5 plus, again, I'm going to add the opposite, which is a negative 5. I'll put that in parentheses. Oh, we know how to do that. Same sign, add and keep the sign. 5 plus 5 is 10. It's negative 10. Second one, 9 minus a negative 3. So we do the opposite, add the opposite. 9 plus a positive 3. Oh, we know how to do that. 9 and 3, same sign, add and keep. 9 plus 3 is 12. Keep the sign, which is positive. Negative 7 minus negative 7. Don't miss this one. A lot of you probably put negative 14, but that's not right. You start with a negative 7. And then subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding the opposite. So the opposite of negative 7 is positive 7. So negative 7 plus 7 gives you 0. Huh. How about that? And then here, 3 minus 14. You might know how to do that already. But if you didn't, you keep the 3. You add the opposite. 3 plus negative 14. Oh, here we go again. Same sign, add and keep. No, different sign, subtract. Oh, 14 minus 3 gives us 11. I'm sorry, gives us, 11. And we keep the sign of the negative because that's the higher number. Okay? I'm going to give you a couple more to practice here. Okay, here's a couple more for you to practice. 8 minus negative 8. 9 minus negative 7. Negative 8 minus 8. And negative 9 minus 7. So take a couple minutes and answer those, and then we'll compare it versus what we need. Okay, so now that you've compared it against the answers, you'll probably see if you did something wrong, you'll see what you did. And if you didn't do something wrong and did it all right, you're wondering or thinking to yourself, this is super easy. Well, let's keep the 8. The first part stays the same. And subtracting a negative is the same as adding the opposite. So I'm adding the opposite of negative 8, which is positive 8. So 8 minus a negative 8 is not 0. It's actually 16. 9 plus a negative 7. Same thing. We're going to keep the 9. We're going to add the opposite of negative 7, which is positive 7. That gives us 16 also. Here we're going to do negative 8. And then we're going to add the opposite of positive 8 here. So it's the opposite of positive 8 is negative. So this becomes negative 16. And negative 9, adding the opposite, plus a negative 7. That becomes negative 16. All right.